So this info document, hopefully you all know how to find that. And then the link at the bottom, 7th grade specific material. This has all of our links that we've already done in distance learning, as well as I'm going to keep it updated to let you know what is coming up, and links for IXL practice and quizzes. The quizzes and CFAs are going to be what are going on your grade. That's two of the things. We're still figuring out how we're going to do tests. So that's all I wanted to say about that. We're actually going to start today. I thought it would be good to have.
Sorry, Mr. A.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Why are you doing that? And if you're in my class, almost the same thing, right? If you, and I could just pull it up, I guess. But the same link, I've posted it several times. I'll post it in this chat here in a sec as well. But we have our own info doc as well, right? And it looks almost the same. And just at the bottom, if you keep scrolling down, that's where our schedule is. That again, like Mr. A was saying, that way you can keep out and make sure that there wasn't anything that you missed, or if there's a link that you missed for quizzes or IXL, things like that. And remember, anything that has an asterisk is what goes on your grade. So there's been a few IXLs here or there, like last week, and then the quizzes, and then obviously the CFA that we took.
Will they be every day?
Say that again?
Would they be every day?
The quizzes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
For the most part, I have done one every day. I'll share those links every day. If there's not one, then there will probably be a CFA or something else.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we are starting a new unit today. I'm going to bring that screen back. If you guys want to see the full screen, you can keep it how it is, or if you want to press escape and have your slideshow and the Zoom meeting split screen, that would be good as well. So we are starting a new unit today on probability. Our first lesson right here, we're talking about what we call likelihood. Hopefully you all have this slideshow open. Before we get into the slideshow, I wanted to just ask a few basic probability questions to see if you guys know how to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a few of these questions, and then we'll cover just some basic vocabulary and get into our slideshow. So in the chat box, go ahead and put your answers. I'll give you about 15 seconds to decide, and then I want everyone to answer super fast. So let me open our chat box so I can see.
So let's
there we go.
Say that the score is a factor of 6. So you have to know what factors are.
Yes. So everyone's putting A. Ooh. You know, when I first looked at this question, I also thought A, but it was because I did not read the question closely enough.
Mm-hmm.
So the question says a die is thrown once. And also we're going to be calling these a number cube today, so we can use either of those vocabulary terms. A die is thrown once. What is the probability that the score is a factor of 6? So this would also include the numbers 2 and 3.
So you have to remember what a factor is. That's the tricky part of that.
Yeah.
So if you think about factors, it's anything that can be multiplied to give you that number.
So in this case, our factors will be 2 and 3 and 6 as well. So if there's 6 different numbers, actually 1 and 6, I'm sorry.
Right.
1, 2, 3,
6.
and 6.
Yeah.
So the correct answer on this one is C.
4 out of 6 choices.
Mm-hmm.
Which simplifies.
And there's there's a little short explanation down here. Probability the score is a factor of 6 is 4 out of 6, which is equal to 2/3. All right, next question. We'll try to do this quickly. The diagram shows a spinner. Let me make this a little smaller. A spinner, like something you would have a paper with a little arrow on it that you spin. And there's 5 numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you spun this, what are the chances that the spinner, the arrow would land on an odd number? Wait 15 seconds and then I'll have everyone, I'll say wait. Oh, somebody already answered.
So
Think about it.
Don't answer yet. And then about 10 more seconds, you'll put your answer.
Think about it. We're doing odd numbers. All right, go ahead and answer now.
There you go. Good. We got some different responses. We got B, C, 1 out of 5, D.
A lot of people are saying D.
Saying D.
Nice.
Okay.
Hey, Alex, I don't know if you know this, but you're sending your chat directly to me. I don't know if you are meaning to do that or not, but there's a setting you can change. I'm fine if you just want to send it to me. Don't feel like you have to share your answer with everybody. All right, so this one,
Well done, guys.
this one is D. Good job. So the number of ways that it can happen out of the total number of outcomes. So there's 5 possible outcomes, 5 different numbers that the arrow can land on. And then there are 3 odd numbers. So we have 3 out of 5. Our odd numbers are 1, 3, and 5. All right, next one is just kind of like a pre-test, if you want to call it that. We have each of the letters of the word Mississippi written on a separate piece of paper, and please wait to answer again. Then each of these pieces of paper are folded and put into a hat. One piece of paper is chosen. What is the probability that it is an I? So find your answer, wait. Don't put it in the chat box quite yet. Give you about 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm counting faster than that. All right, ready, go. Answer. Very nice.
Nice and speedy.
Killing it. Lots of people. Yeah, you guys all got that. That's A. There's 4 I's in the word Mississippi. And there's 11 total letters. Good job. We'll do this one really quick. A card is chosen at random from a deck of 52 playing cards. There are 4 queens and 4 kings in a deck. What is the probability the card chosen is a queen or king? So you're choosing one card, one random card out of the whole deck. What's the probability it will be a queen or a king? Now, if you want to, you can type it in the chat box and just wait to press enter. Maybe take 10 seconds and then we'll have everybody press enter all at the same time. You guys are doing awesome at this. Mr. E's got the countdown. Hopefully you can see his video. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and press enter. Got B, D.
Ooh, a lot of B's.
Yeah, when I first looked at this question, I thought 4 out of 52. So I initially thought it was A when I saw this problem, and then I read it again. Let's see. So this one is B. If there's 8 possible cards, 4 kings and 4 queens, and that's out of a total of 52 cards. When that's simplified, we get 2/13.
And part of probability, guys, is just like how the questions are asked. We've already seen a couple questions where the question can be tricky, and on this one it says, what is the probability that the card is chosen is a queen or king? So that or word, the or word is key on this one, because it could be a queen or a king. That means you have to include both the 4 queen possibilities and the 4 king.
All right, our last one here. A fair coin, and it gives an explanation of what a fair coin is. A fair coin is tossed 3 times. What is the probability of obtaining 1 head and 2 tails? Just think of a quarter. If you flip that, what is the probability that you would have 1 head and 2 tails? This is a good one to have a piece of paper for.
So if it's tossed 3 times, what's the probability of getting 1 head and 2 tails? And we're assuming in any order.
Yes, that is an important part of it, an important detail. It doesn't have to be in that order, 1 head and then 2 tails after that. It's a good way to start us off. I think we have a lot of people already understanding basics. Okay, 5 seconds, and then put the answer in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and enter in the chat box what you think it is. Lots of bees.
This is true.
1 of 3. Now we're going to end after this question and go over some vocabulary, just basic stuff we've already been talking about and using. Give you, oh, Jorge. So this one, it looks like everybody's putting B. I don't think I saw anything but B. B, 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 B.
I think it was all.
Anthony said A. Okay. This one's a little tricky. We actually have C as our correct answer. Ah, Jare just put that in. So I want you to take a quick look at this. You don't have to know how to do this right now, but it's good to see. There are 8 possible ways the coin can land. Heads, heads, head, 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 tail. This is why I said it's good to have paper and pencil, because you can write out all of these options and you see that there's 8 possible ways. And then when you go through all the possibilities, you see right here we've got a heads, tail, and tail. Heads, tails, and tails. Even though it was in the order of tails, heads, tails, the order didn't matter. What we're looking for is 1 head and 2 tails, and it looks like there's 3 options. So we're going to go ahead and end that little pre-quiz and get into our slideshow, and I just want to talk about a couple things. So vocabulary, this is definitely not all the vocabulary we'll be using, but a few words that you'll want to know for today. So likelihood, and this is just taken from Google. Likelihood says it's the state or fact of something's being likely, or in other words, probability. And then probability says the extent to which something is probable. The one we're going to use likelihood a lot today, as well as chance. I don't know how that happens. We're going to use chance a lot today. The chances of something happening, you've probably heard that before. What is that? Do you see that on your screen?
I do see that. I don't know.
Okay.
Mr. A, real quick.
Yeah.
Just testing real quick. Is there anybody that cannot hear my voice? I had one or two students say they couldn't hear. If you can't hear me, then just send a message in the chat saying you can. Anyway, you can go on, Mr.
Okay, so you guys have probably heard someone say, like, what are the chances of that happening? That's what we're talking about. The possibility of something happening is basically our next unit, our probability. So the probability, here's a few examples. Winning the lottery. The chances of winning the lottery is 1 in 13,983,816. Chances of getting struck by lightning is about 1 in 700,000. Chances of being left-handed, about 1 in 10. And the last one, this is depressing or sad, but the chances of being in a plane crash is 1 in 5,400,000. You can win the lottery if you are the lucky one in almost 14 million people. All right, let's head over to our slideshow. I'm gonna present this, and I'm gonna hide our chat. So Mr. E is gonna be managing our chat so I can see the full screen over here. All right, today's objective, by the end of the day, you should be able to do this. Determine the likelihood of an event between being impossible to being certain. So that means we're gonna have a scale. On one end of the scale is something being impossible. If you look at the scale here, on the left side, we see impossible, and on the far right, you see certain. These are our two extremes when we're talking about probability. Our other words that we're going to use today are unlikely, as likely as not, and likely. Those are our 5 options we're going to talk about today. So I want you to go ahead and type in your box on your slideshow, which word best describes the likelihood that 2 people sitting next to each other on the bus have the same birthday. You got to think about how many days are there in a year. What are the chances they have the same exact day? Is this like certain? They're for sure going to have the same birthday as you?
Do you have to like make a copy of the slideshow again?
Yeah, you do.
All right.
If anyone maybe doesn't know how to make a copy, if you go to File and then Make a Copy, you want to do the entire presentation, and then
It's impossible.
Go ahead and type that in your box here.
It's
Is it?
impossible.
I wanna have people share in just a minute. Do you already have that put into your chat or your text box, Anthony?
Yeah.
Nice, good job.
Great.
You think it's impossible though?
Yeah.
I'm actually. I'm not even going to give you the answer for this. I want you to think about this as we continue through our lesson.
Yeah. So if just two random people sat next to each other on the bus, what's the possibility or probability that they have the same exact birthday?
And once you have that in the text box, then we're just going to move on. And I'm not going to tell you whether your answer was right or wrong. I want you to think about your answer as we go through our lesson today. So this is another activity. As we talk more about impossibility to certainty, let's look at these all together. So we have 5 different examples, and we have 5 different probabilities or likelihoods. We've got certain, likely, impossible, unlikely, or as likely as not. So let's talk about certain. Certain means that 100% of the time this will happen. It is for sure that an event will happen. On the other end is the impossible. This is 0% of the time an event will happen. So let's look at our first option. You will go swimming on a hot day this summer. I mean, some people might say that it's certain, but
That's
I mean, we never know what could happen, right? What if you were that 1 in 500,000 or whatever and got in a plane crash? You probably wouldn't go to the pool on a hot day this summer. But it's also pretty likely that you would go to the pool on a hot day. So this green dot, I want you to drag from likely and cover that circle. This is likely that it will happen. That means it's not 100% for sure, but we can probably assume that you will do this, that this event will happen.
And are they going to use each color only once, or?
Yep. Yep, each one of these dots will go over one of the options. So there will be children wearing costumes on Halloween. Now, if we only have 4 options left, what do you guys think this will be? Do you think it's unlikely that there will be children wearing costumes? Do you think it's as likely as not, impossible, or certain? I actually would love to have someone, hey Anthony, so I think you came in after we asked this, but could you have your mic off? We're going to be doing a lot of chat box talking. I'm going to have a few people share their answer and why they think their answer is correct. So if you would be willing to tell me your explanations as to why you think it's certain. Nice. And I'll give you guys about 20 seconds to give your explanation. So Hunter, if you want to unmute yourself and take 20 seconds, explain why you think it's, well, you didn't put your answer. I didn't see your answer. Explain your answer and why you think it's either certain or unlikely. Looks like most people think it's certain. You want to unmute yourself, Hunter? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Hey, Mr. E, I don't know if you know you're muted.
Yeah, is this unit kind of personal? It shouldn't be personal, Jorge. It should just be probability of things happening. So think more like cards and dice and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. It's not letting me unmute Hunter.
Right. Luck is like a superstition. Like, it's basically everything is probability. And then some people are like, no, it's like I'm doing extra good, when really it's just happenstance. It's just chance. Yeet.
So I'm not hearing from Hunter, and I don't think anyone else wants to share. A lot of you are putting certain, though, and you are right. We're basically 100% chance that children will be wearing costumes on Halloween.
And it doesn't say 100% children will be wearing costumes. It just says that there'll be some children wearing costumes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Your hair will grow 5 inches in one day. Go ahead and move a dot. Once you have your dot moved, put your answer in the chat box. Oh, I'm hovering over. So we have 3 left. Is this unlikely? Is this as likely as not? Or is it impossible?
So what's the probability your hair will grow 5 inches? 5 inches in one day.
Yeah, 5 inches. That's like half a foot almost.
And we're not talking about weaves. No weaves.
No wigs. It's your real hair. Man, I don't understand why it won't allow some people to make a copy. I've had that a few times. I wish there was something we could do to change that. Maybe.
Mr. I had one student that said, are they going to turn in at the end or just following along?
I do like it when my students share it with me after we're done, so I can go through and make sure they did it all, make sure they understand. So I would like my students to share it with me.
Okay. And likewise, if you're using a piece of paper, then don't worry about it for my class. But if you are using the slides, it's really easy to just share it with me when you finish.
So this one is impossible. No one in the history of the world has been able to grow hair that fast. There's no way. We are limited as humans as to how quickly we can grow hair. All right, next one. You flip a coin and it lands. You flip a coin and it lands heads up. So we have 2 options left. Is this unlikely or is this as likely as not? Meaning it's as likely for it to not happen as it is for it to be the event that does happen.
Yeah, even chances.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could even think of the numbers 50-50.
Maybe you could think of numbers.
Yep, once you have that dot brought over to the bubble, go ahead and put your answer in the chat box. We've got a lot of people doing awesome and already putting that in. Okay, and that leaves one option. We have unlikely. So let's see the example that's unlikely. A student in your class will become famous next year. That is not impossible. There's a chance that it could happen, but it's kind of unlikely. The chances are low. All right, so you should have all these dots on these different events or different circumstances. And I want to go back to this first slide. I want you to rethink about this real quick. What word describes the likelihood that 2 people sitting next to each other on the bus will have the same birthday? Do you think this is impossible? I think there's a small chance that this could actually happen. So when we're talking about probability and chances, we actually use numbers, and our range of numbers that we use to talk about probability is from 0 to 1. So as you can see in our Google slideshow, the impossible, the likelihood that something will never happen, this is not going to happen ever, that means that our probability is 0. And on the other end, if something is certain to happen, like we know for sure no matter what, this will happen. If it's certain, then our number for this will be 1. So in decimal form, this would be 1.0. And whenever we have a fraction with the number is the same numerator as the denominator, like 4/4, that is equal to 1. So these are all different ways of writing the number 1. 100% likely to happen, 1, or 4 out of 4, meaning out of 4 possibilities, we have 100% chance, or it'll happen 4 out of 4 times. So what we want you to do is fill in these blank spots, and I'm going to do the first one with you and then kind of have you guys fill in the rest. So if we're going on a scale and our middle,
Sure.
it looks like, yeah.
Let me just pause you for a sec.
Sure.
So did you guys catch that? I know we were kind of going through it a little quick, but so percentage, you guys probably seen percentage before. 100% means it's gonna happen. 0 is not gonna happen. But like Mr. A is saying, you can also have that be as a decimal, like 0 to 1. That goes with percentage, or like we said, a fraction. Like if you had, a spoon, a fork, a knife, and a serving spoon, and you said you grab one at random, what's the probability that you get a serving spoon, a fork, a knife, or a spoon? Well, that's all of them. So it's going to be 4 out of 4. That's the same sort of thing. So
yeah. So if we're looking at fractions, like he was saying, if there was 4 things and you said, what's the chances of grabbing one of those 4 things? Well, if you grab something, then you have a 4 in 4 chance to grab one of those items. So let's fill in these boxes and kind of talk about the fractions and decimals and percents as we go. If something is as likely as not, let's think of, this is a great example or time to talk about a coin. Like on our last slide, it said you flip a coin and it lands heads up. This is as likely as not, meaning we have got 2 possibilities, and the chances that it will be heads is 1 out of 2. The other chance is that it would be tails, and that has the same chances. It's also 1 out of 2. There's 2 options, and one of those things is heads, one is tails. So unlikely, this word we're using, is in between impossible and as likely as not. So for unlikely, we're going to go ahead and put 1/4. Or in other words, 1 out of 4 times an event will happen. There's 4 possibilities, there's 4 possible options, and it's unlikely that this one thing would happen out of those 4 options. And I'm sure you can guess on the other end, in between 1/2 and 4/4, we would have 3/4. That means there's a good possibility that something will happen if it happens 3 out of 4 times. Trying to think of another way to explain this. If you have,
So this would only be for if there was 4 items or 4 possibilities, correct?
right, yeah. Or I mean, if you had more, so if there was 8 and your fraction was 6 out of 8 times, then that would simplify down to 3 out of 4. So think about if you had the colors
Maybe
red, orange, green, green. If you had those 4 colors, let's say you have 4 balls in a bag. One's red, one's orange, one is a green, and one is a, let's say, yellow.
Do you want to draw that real quick, Mr. A?
Yeah, sure.
Just 4 little colored balls.
we've got, let's use the colors I've got here. We have a blue, we've got a green, we've got an orange, and a yellow. Maybe we can even say that these are marbles. If we have these 4 marbles and we put them into a box or bag of some sort, and then we said, what are the chances of, if you reached into this box or bag and pulled out a marble, what's the chances that the marble would be either blue, green, or orange? That is 3 out of 4 of our options. So our chances are 3 out of 4. So that we would say that it's pretty likely that you would pull out a marble that is either blue, green, or orange. If we were saying, what are the chances that you would pull out a yellow marble? Just that all by itself. We would say that the chances are 1 out of 4, because there's 4 options, but that's only one of our colors. So if we said, what are the chances, what is the likelihood, I'm sorry, these are different likelihoods. What is the likelihood that one of the marbles we would pull out would be yellow? And we would say that that's unlikely because it's only 1 out of 4. So as we have gone through the year, we've worked with many different types of numbers, like rational, irrational, whole numbers, and there's numbers that have different equivalents. So when you are working with fractions, there is a decimal that is equal to that fraction. So we have a few examples here. 1/2 is equal to 0.5, and 4/4 is equal to 1. So if we are trying to find the decimal that is equal to 1/4, go ahead and put in the chat box what you think that decimal is. I'm sure a lot of you have already figured out most of this table. So my question right now, what goes in this box right here as our decimal that is equal to 1/4?
So if we only have 4 options, it should be 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, or 4/4. Then what would the unlikely one be?
Very nice. 0.25, you guys got it. You can put 0.25 or 0.25.
What about the likely ones, guys? What do you think?
Our likely column here, what would our decimal be for this box? Hunter's on top of it. Nice. Good job, everybody. We got a lot of participation in the chat box. It's awesome.
Good job, guys. Keep it up. Doing great.
Laser does not go in this box, Hunter. I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys got this one. It's 0.75. That's our decimal that's equivalent to 3/4 or 3 out of 4.
Good job.
And let's look at our percentages. And you can probably see a pattern here. If we have a decimal that's 0.5, and that means it's 50%, and our number over here is 1, and we have 100%, go ahead and put in your decimals for unlikely and likely. I'm sorry, I said decimals. Put in your percentages for unlikely and likely. Once you have those in your box, go ahead and type them in the chat box as well. You guys are fast.
Pretty speedy. Yeah. So if you understand the percentage or the decimal, those are both directly related. Good. You only have to respond once also. You don't. If you respond once, then we see it. You don't have to do it again. Good. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I'm gonna go back to our example with the marbles and say, what are the chances that we will pull out either a blue or a green or an orange ball out of the box? This is 3 out of 4, or if we're using percentages, this will happen 75% of the time. What are the chances that you would pull out a yellow marble? This would happen 25% of the time. Seems like you guys have a pretty good understanding of this. I wish we could be in class and have some time for questions and discussion. You're welcome to send either Mr. E or I an email if you have questions, or you can type them in the chat box if you're willing to. You can even set it so you just ask us a private question if you would like to.
Just click on our name.
Yep, if you're in the chat box instead of everyone, you can click on that and choose either Mr. E or myself and send us a private message. And this next slide we're going to have you all do on your own. So let's talk about it. You will need to give 2 answers. So that's why there's 2 boxes. Tell whether the event is impossible, unlikely, as likely as not, likely, or certain. And then your second box will be also include a quantifying value of 0. Or sorry, it looks like the options are 0, closer to 0, 1/2, closer to 1, or 1. So closer to 1, that would be our likely. These ones are closer to 1. And these unlikely events are closer to 0.
Mr. A, Jorge, if you go back, is this the page that you wanted, Jorge? Or did you want the marble one?
This is the one, okay.
All right. So on that next slide, it's going to be, you're good now. It's going to be, is it certain? Is it possible? Is it unlikely? And then a number representing that. So is it 0, no possibility? Is it 1, full possibility?
Okay, so our first one, you roll a 6-sided number cube and the number is 1 or greater. Now think about a number cube or a die. What numbers, look on a number cube, we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what are the chances that on the number cube you will get a 1 or greater? Now I'm not going to have everyone put the answers in the chat box. We're going to go ahead and just put all your answers on the slideshow. And then when you're done with this page, there's 2 things that we want you to do. We want you to share it. If you're my student, please share it with me. If you're Mr. E's student, please share it with him. And then when you're done with that, the next slide has links for IXL practices. You just click on the link there and it says certain, probable, unlikely. and you go to IXL and practice these things. And then I will have a quizzes link in Google Classroom, and I'll make sure to go over all of your slideshows that you share with me so I can reply back with how you did on the slideshow.
Yeah. So, and then once again, you click that share link, and it'll either be Elander, right?
And then get out of here. Cancel. So just type one of our email addresses in this box there.
Yeah, so either Armantrout@graniteschools.org or Elander@graniteschools.org.
I'll put mine in here just in case anyone wants to copy it.
Likewise.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming. We had a great group today. Really appreciate it. I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes. Unmute your mics and share something you learned with us today. Ready, go.
I'm tired.
You're tired. Did you learn that today? Oh, I guess I should
learned that
stop
I
sharing.
have to wake up late.
Yeah.
Nice.
I actually kind of like this lesson because it was really fun.
Did you guys know that probability could be written as a fraction or a decimal or a percentage?
No, that's what I learned.
That's pretty crazy. 3 different ways of saying the same thing.
In the beginning, when I was sharing some probability with you guys, like 1 in 10, the way you would write that as a fraction is just writing 1/10. So your chances of being left-handed are 1 in 10, or 10%. 10% of our population is left-handed.
So, and those of you guys that are talking about luck and things like that, that's the people that are really good at card games, like poker and things like that. They know all the probabilities in their head. So,
Yes, they're very good with numbers. All right. At this point, anyone is welcome to go. Don't forget to do the IXL practice, take the quizzes for today, and share that slideshow with us.